All right, so share with us how brain came to be.
Okay. Yeah. So, reactive.
Did you say react?
I did. I did. As a result of a need, Brain was formed. It was during the pandemic, January of 2021. Nations needed support. We were all shut in, and it was like, we know what each other. We know what we do. Not sure how to collaborate. Not sure how to work together, even though we sit in the same rooms. But now we're shut in. Now we're all virtual. How do we work together? The reason I say reactive um, is because this isn't the first time that an initiative like this has been attempted. This is the first time that we've gotten this far where Brain will become a 501c3 in 2026. But this attempt to collaborate and coordinate is not new in back.
And so my reaction to that is because I've worked in different spaces, sectors, or industries, however you want to frame it, and in our community, like that's not the first time I've heard that. So we're in the youth development sector, but I've heard that in other sectors about how too often we're reactive. And to me, that kind of demonstrates not for an individual, but as a community, more of a lack of vision at times. Joining us is Jasmin Johnson, who views youth support not just as a service, but as an essential community infrastructure. As Executive Director of the Baton Rouge Area Youth Network, Jasmin has spent over a decade bridging the gap between schools, nonprofits, and stakeholders. She's a master of system improvement, a soon-to-be Scrum Master, and the driving force behind making out-of-school time more effective for every young person in the city of Baton Rouge. Jasmin, it is a pleasure to have you on our podcast today. Welcome to the BRSTEM podcast. First thing I want to start off with, because when I saw this, I was like, what is this? So the first thing I want to start off with is helping me to understand what a Scrum Master is.
Oh, okay. So it's really just a strategic way to manage projects but also with a human element. So making sure that you are considering the person in the process.
So you think that is something unique or different or a change in the way that we think about leadership?
Hmm. Well, hey, change in the way that we think about leadership. No, I think it's just an addition. I think it's something that is beneficial. I am currently working with an organization in partnership, and a conversation we had yesterday, she, shared her disappointment with not being on track or being behind. And it turned out they did not consider constraints when they planned this project. And so we got more in the minutia of like what it really takes to change systems. We got into like what it really takes to like ensure that you're effective. And one of the things is considering the things that go wrong. So when you have these practices in place, you're more effective.
Okay. All right. So I'm sorry for getting off on a tangent right there, but I just thought that was very interesting. So if you would kind of share a little bit of both your personal and professional background so we can continue into the conversation.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. I have always been around young people.
Okay.
Personally, I have 29 nieces and nephews, and I'm that aunt. I know. I know, 29. Yes, I have 29 nieces and nephews, and I'm that aunt. but I'm not that aunt that's going to, be in opposition to what your parents want you to do. So I'm not that house where you come and you can do whatever you want that your parents don't want you to do. I'm that aunt who cares about your education. I'm that aunt who cares about your learning style inventory. I'm that aunt who cares about you having the high quality supports that you need to thrive. And I'm that aunt who believes in sharing my seats so that, the kids in my family, can have opportunities. So, um, meeting the needs of children is one of my core values, and I've been practicing it a long time. Now, pre-pandemic, I had a for-profit enrichment business that focused on ELA and math specifically. I'm a math brain, so I focused on the math. And my sister, who was a ELA teacher in EBR for, well, I think 2 decades. She focused on ELA because I was so ingrained in learning style inventory. This is something we took into account with our students. However, what I realized early on, no single program can do it alone. It doesn't matter how excellent you are, you cannot do it alone. So between 2019 and current, what keeps showing up for me is fragmentation. Children don't experience services in silos, but systems often operate that way. And so that's why brain exists.
All right, so share with us how Brain came to be.
Okay. Yeah. So reactive.
Did you say react?
I did. I did. As a result of a need, brain was formed. It was during the pandemic, January of 2021. Nations needed support. We were all shut in, and it was like, we know what each other, we know what we do. Not sure how to collaborate, not sure how to work together, even though we sit in the same rooms. But now we're shut in. Now we're all virtual. How do we work together? The reason I say reactive is because this isn't the first time that an initiative like this has been attempted. This is the first time that we've gotten this far where Brain will become a 501c3 in 2026. But this attempt to collaborate and coordinate is not new and bad.
And so my reaction to that is because, I've worked in different spaces, sectors, or industries, however you want to frame it. And in our community, like that's not the first time I've heard that. So we're in the youth development sector, but I've heard that in other sectors about how, too often we're reactive. And to me, that kind of demonstrates, not for an individual, but as a community, more of a lack of vision at times. So that was the reason for my reaction.
Yeah, no. And so here we now have this capacity building intermediary working to strengthen coordination, quality, and shared infrastructure. And shared infrastructure. One more time. And shared infrastructure. As a result, the outcome is less duplication, stronger programs, and more consistent experiences for youth. So when organizations share planning, data practices, and relationships with schools, students experience continuity. Adults are aligned, expectations are clear, and resources stretch further, which we know with all that's going on at the federal level. Being reactive is no longer the way to go. To stretch free.
And so when we talk about visionary or the lack thereof being reactionary, and everything that you just kind of walk through, which I'm sure that's just kind of composite of it. Why do you think it is so difficult for us to kind of move in this vein, or previously has been difficult for us to move in this vein?
Oh, the industry hurdle. Drum roll, please. So honestly, the biggest hurdle in youth development is that it's still treated as an optional rather than essential infrastructure.
Okay.
again, we invest reactively instead of designing systems that are sustainable, um, coordinated, and professionalized. We have data on the national, uh, state, and local level that say that these programs work, that youth development is essential to reducing crime, that development programs are essential to increasing, student outcomes. There's data, yet we still struggle with ensuring that these programs are supported in ways uh, that would increase long-term funding opportunities, in ways that would increase shared standards, in ways that would reduce burnout. So I think it's time, like this work deserves the same level of rigor as other uh, professions.
And I think for me, what is just astounding, um, because again, you shared it as data available, but just even anecdotally, if I live in a community or a neighborhood, and let's just say 50% of the kids in the fall are playing football slash cheerleading, participating in the fall sport, and the other 50% of the kids are at home when their parents are still at work. So then what's happening? If half the kids are in the neighborhood with no adults around supervising.
I mean, um, you know what they say, idle mind is a devil's workshop.
And so I say it's astounding because there have been other efforts, academically from an educational standpoint, to kind of cover that time period.
Yeah.
And so we see our school district now is doing a pilot where kids get out of school at 4 o'clock or whatnot. But there are other places around the country where like that's not an abnormal thing. There are some charter schools that were launched, ours being one, that kids went to school to 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because again, they were in a safe space. They were still learning. They were being cared for, nurturing, and being fed. And so I struggle at times to understand why this is so difficult for people to understand, or for leaders in our community to understand.
Again, I don't think they don't understand. I think they think it's optional
Oh,
rather than
okay. Well,
essential.
you educated me.
No, I mean, I really think that, as I sit in rooms and I have conversations, I see that I don't need to justify this field. They get it. They know. But when you think things are optional, um, opposed to essential, you treat them different. You approach them different. So I really think that's the hurdle.
I had an opportunity. I won't name the school and I won't name the organization, but yesterday at one of our schools, was working with some students and noticed one of them had on some swag, a jacket, uh, for a youth development organization here in our community. And so when I began to engage with the young man, found out that two of his classmates were also participants, and these are high school students. But what was interesting was when I said, okay, let's take a group photo real quick so I can send it to the person that's the director. Then you saw their demeanor begin to change. They recognized the connection. And I'm not necessarily like embedded with this organization, but I just made the assumption that if your leader found out that you were at school conducting yourself in a negative manner, uh, not necessarily to be consequences, but like you don't want to discipline the person. And I think that's the thing that I've also found out, or I've also began to realize, again, having worked in youth sports, or some academic focus, or skills focus, youth development programs, is it creates that connection that even teachers can use sometimes when they may not necessarily be able to connect with a parent or get through to a parent. You can get through to a coach, a mentor, or the leader of a youth development program. Um, and I just think it's very important that as a community working in this space, that we really understand how critical this is to the future of our community.
Yeah, yes. I will say, growing up, I was a math science brain. Like I absolutely love science and math. Just comes to me easily. So naturally, if you're good in it already, you like it. But I will tell you, the class that I remember, the class that I love, the teacher that I remember is my art teacher.
Really? Why is
Yes.
that?
It was the class that allowed me to be curious. It was the class that allowed me to fail forward because I never got pottery. It was so hard. It was, I think really it was about the curiosity. Being able to explore and see what you want to do first or not yet, or, not at all is part of what these programs do for, students. It makes us stronger workforce when children can go or young adults can go in um, being confident about their choices as a result of programs like this.
You said I like the curiosity piece, uh, but you also mentioned failing forward. So explain to me what you mean by that.
When you listen to the most successful people in the world talk about what brought them to that point, um, a lot of times their answers are so simple. Um, not to say that all kids want to be Warren Buffett or know who he is, but he is one who, people lean to for advice when it comes to, financial success. And so his when he talks about his success, how he got there, he said, I read. Like that's 2 words. I read. Not a whole book of top 10 ways to blah blah blah. Um, and not to say that those things aren't helpful, but what I've come to know from the most successful people is it's hard to do, but it's really simple in concept and strategy. So when I talk about um, failing forward is the key, like accepting that you are going to fail because it's about how you overcome. And so not being shamed, not only being awarded for the A, but really being awarded for or celebrated. You don't need a trophy, but for being brave enough to do it scared. That is something my son went away to college all the way in Ohio. And when we talked, I would say for no reason at all. Now he's 24 and I do the same, but I just say um, thank you for being brave enough to do it scared. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're scared of, but I know life is scary. I know for the most successful people, you reach one height, but then you go for another height. So it's scary all over again. The fear of failure could be there all over again. So having these types of programs where it's not necessarily about the grade, but it is still there. It is still outcome driven. Uh, I think it's so beneficial to children learning through practice how to fail forward hard and fast. I wish I could quote the person who said that, but it's true. Like you're going to fail forward.
And the reason I asked you to expound on that because I feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, I feel like as a value, I wish we really appreciated that more. I'll just put it that way. I wish we appreciated it more. Because as you point to, as we become adults, there are situations and challenges that you're going to be faced with that you have to overcome. And I think it builds in you that self confidence to know that you can push through difficult times and difficult situations. Um, I think, sometime in our own practice with BRSTEM, there are instances where, whether it be coding or building something, but usually it's like with coding a robot or doing some type of coding project or with electronics, uh, like there's tangible physical life skills that the kids are learning, but it's also that inner lesson that they're learning. Um, so if it doesn't work the way you thought it would work or the way you thought you heard Mr. Lewis say it's supposed to work, then don't get upset. Just understand, like, if you're going to become an app developer, like this is like intrinsically a part of the process. And so it's an iterative process that gets very frustrating. Um, and it may take you 2, 3 days to figure out a simple problem. Um, but from my own experience, like in school, going through engineering school, it was the weirdest thing. Like I would get a kick out of stuff. Like it would be frustrating, but the joy that you feel when you finally get the answer or you finally solve the problem or you got it to work, like nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah.
And to your point, like those experiences oftentimes are more valuable and stick with you a lot longer than a grade would.
I mean, it's truly a superpower. It's an undervalued superpower to be able to sit in a room with confidence and approach it with curiosity, without focusing on failure. We don't have enough spaces where that's cultivated, where children are allowed to, do that. Um, and it's so important. I know so many adults who are like, I can't. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. And it's like, but what if you can? And also, what if it's okay to not be the Olympian? I mean, I am an archery, coach and an archer.
What?
And oh yeah, yeah. And I do it because I want to, and there are specific skills that I want to gain. I am just a curious person who does not allow society to give me permission to be.
Wait a minute. So archery, so I can walk up on you.
No,
And you just like
okay. You cannot walk up on me because as a private person, you don't know where I am. But I will say, again, I was that aunt, I was also that mom, so I supported my kids. Now that my kids are older, my own interest, is in hobbies, is where I am in life and what I'm focusing on. And so I wanted to become an archer. So I said, what way to learn than with kids? And learning it from the beginning. So I'm a level 1 certified coach. No, I don't ever want to kill my own food. I don't ever want to go to the Olympics. But the skill set that you gain is being more aware of your surroundings and just more focused. Even though I'm a very focused person, and I'll tell you, I've been doing it 2 years, and I've noticed in the last 6 months how much calmer I am in my body, how I'm not as reactive to things that, bother me. And that all comes from me just
that is cool.
yeah.
That is
So if we could do that for kids, foster curiosity, um, I think they would be bolder individuals in what they want to do in life.
And so what I'm also thinking, because I don't think it's a stretch, I think a lot of people, myself included, get into youth development because we think we have a product or service
Mhm.
that can give kids either an alternative path to some of the challenges we see in our community right now, um, or a much more positive path.
Mhm.
Um, so that they can be much more productive, fruitful, and help to uplift our entire community. And so one of the things that we often see, which, we believe leads to some of the challenges and crises that we see going on in our community, is the lack of ability for young people to participate unassisted in conflict resolution.
Mm.
And so I think for me, sometimes I see kind of those same attributes when I don't want to struggle with something,
Mhm.
and then I act out. Um, I see that in issues where we begin to see violence, um, or we start leaning towards violence. And so when you were talking earlier about the failing forward piece, it had me thinking about the fact that, like, we could use some of those same skills in helping kids to manage their emotions, managing conflict that like quickly escalates over something as simple as Mr. Lewis, why he look at me like that? And I mean, we laugh, but like that's literally where for a lot of kids you start to begin to see it because it's something that we might see as minuscule that leads to them being put out of school for 3 days. Um, and so let's kind of talk through that for a minute on, your experience in youth development. Maybe even talk through some organizations that you feel like have had some good practice.
Yeah.
Because I think, for schools, that's a lot of their frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Is on top of trying to teach, kind of helping kids, whether we view it as a mental health issue, uh, however, people categorize it at different age. But at the end of the day, we have kids that aren't able to function in a classroom setting because of things that are going on inside of
it. Yeah, yeah. So I would tell you, to answer your question about specific organizations, I would say Youth Oasis does a very good job of meeting uh, young people where they are. They service, I think, young people up to years old.
up to 30 years
No, I
old.
think it's up
Okay.
to 30. I know for sure 24, but I'm pretty sure there's a program that goes up to 30 years. And it's a misconception that all of these children are housed or they're homeless and on site with them. No, that's not the case.
I'm glad you cleared that up because I thought that.
Yeah, most people think that, which is, why this network is, trying to, not trying, but, working towards clarifying what everyone, does and putting this in a coordinated way so everyone can understand. But yeah, no, they offer yeah, lots of opportunities to, train other professionals, but also to help young people
Okay.
deal with conflict resolution. I mean, you can imagine the types of issues that, uh, the young people they serve are going through. So conflict is, right at the center. Another organization that I would think of, that I'm thinking of, is actually the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
Um, because of their national platform, they have access to professional development that the average organization
Okay.
in the city does not. So what if there was this network where we can share resources?
And so you're telling me that both of these organizations that you spoke so highly of are active members of Brain?
Oh, they are both active members
That
of
is
Brain.
great. That's great.
And we convene on topics based on member need, and that comes through surveys. But what if we in 2026 were creating this member portal where you, Eric Lewis, can say, "Hey, I am having these challenges with conflict resolution. Does anybody have any
Yeah. See,
professional development, coming up? And what if others can respond in real time?"
and see, I think what's really cool about that, because I sometimes in my head I kind of liken this having had like you had for profit businesses and been involved with the chamber. I kind of liken this to a chamber for youth development organization from a training standpoint. And I think the thing that's really cool about that, and I'll just take our organization as again, like 90, 80, I would say 80% of our staff or college interns. And so for me, I see that as a value add for our student interns, because like just by going to college and not to knock any other enterprise, but just being in college and or having a part-time job, they might not get access to this, but being a part of Brain, we can do the
Yeah.
example of the training that you laid out, and then our student workers get access to the type of training that they can then put on their resume and help to build their own skill set. And so I think that's awesome. Let's on that segue. Uh, I think last year, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but last year there was in September there was a convening on neurodiversity.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, what I love is that Brain has a unique position. There's no bureaucracy that keeps us from meeting the needs of the organizations in real time. So actually, it was BRSTEM that reached out to say what types of training can Brain provide to members about ADHD. in neurodivergent. I would have to go back and,
Now, I'm gonna be honest with you.
what?
I might have said ADHD, but I didn't say neurodivergent.
Okay,
So I'm
okay.
struggling
Well,
with that.
I talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people, so I don't know. Maybe you said that. I don't know. But so BRSTEM's commitment to brain definitely makes your voice louder, and the partnership mutual. And so when I received that request, I reached out to other organizations to see if this was something that would be beneficial to them. And they said absolutely. We did some research, and based on that research, starting with building empathy is where you should start. So that's how that came about. Now, because Brain also believes in cross sector, we are you know, we are getting rid of the silos. You are all educators in different ways. You all educate the same children in different ways. So you should be learning the same things. So our convenings and our trainings are cross sector. So we invited everyone, not just out of school time program providers. And it was a very, very successful convening. We use a national software company called Lucid Reality Lab. And in partnership with them, we were able to do this ADHD simulation showing, and training people on how to understand what, students experiencing ADHD go through uh, every day. So in the simulation, it's a third grader named Michael, and he is, you're getting to experience life like him. So it was so successful with the organizations, who we serve. We really felt like in order to truly build empathy, we have to take this to the parents. While we're not a parent, organization, and our professional development is for the professional, this one was special.
Okay.
And so we reached out to EBR, and in partnership with EBR, we facilitated that same Every Mind Matters ADHD simulation to the parents. It was, I wish we could have recorded it, parents crying.
Oh wow.
Parents accepting that their child is really ADHD on site, um, sharing that with other parents who couldn't even get through the simulation, just seeing that, wow, this is what my child experiences. But I think the most impactful feedback was came from the parents who were like, I can't hear. Like, I can't hear. And we're like, yeah. But no, they kept saying, I can't hear the teacher. I can't. And they're trying to fix and it's like, you're Michael.
Yeah.
Michael can't hear the teacher because he's distracted by the things on. So it was like these aha moments. And so in partnership with Capital Area Autism Network, we put on those two sessions, those two convenings, and we plan to continue. Empathy is where you start, but there are more trainings to come. But we will facilitate the Every Mind Matters again at the conference in February.
Okay. And so we'll talk more about the February session. Kind of walk us through. I guess holistically, if I came in or I approached you, and I'd heard about this organization, Brain, explain what Brain does for its members.
Okay. So, what Brain does for its members, essentially is like listen to your needs and, you know, and do our best to meet those needs. But it has to be a global challenge that you're facing. We can't provide direct services like specifically where we are like coming on site. So Brain meets the needs of youth serving organizations. This is the place you come to network with other organizations doing the same work. This is the network you come to have your professional developments met, whether that is on the executive level or the frontline staff. But I do know that frontline staff, training is a big one. This will become the place that you come for, funding opportunities. This is the place that you come where when you want to professionalize your, organization. And this is ultimately the place that you come to build the services field. We can't build this without your voice. You are the boots on the ground who knows exactly what this should look like. So this is where you come. This is your department to professionalize your field, um, to increase your opportunities for long-term funding, and to network with others.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned about transitioning to the 501c3. So kind of explain like long term, what's the vision for Brain?
Yeah. So the vision for Brain is to definitely increase capacity. It won't be just me long term. It has been, me by myself for 3 years, and it's been great. But it is time to, increase our capacity by hiring full time support. So we will have between 2 and 3 employees, and then 2 interns.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So talk to me like whether it's been this experience with Brain or just over the time working and or advocating for young people to have an entire toolkit to be successful in life. Share like one of your most joyous moments.
Ooh, let's see. My most joyous moments in or out of Brain?
Correct.
Ooh, let's see. Okay. I, the curiosity is just so big for me. I will say when I get to volunteer with
Okay.
programs, when I'm invited to volunteer, I love to read, quite animated. I am that person who will sit down on the floor with the students. I love those are joyous moments for me. But I think my most joyous moment um, was when I recognized that um, I am the leader who is patient enough to do what's right for sustainability. I think my most joyous moment was when I realized that I'm not a reactionary, um, hasty leader who is going to let this go by the wayside like so many other initiatives. I think that, yeah,
Okay.
probably.
And then it might be a little difficult, but I just think it's important for
Okay.
people in leadership and youth development to understand that they're not alone. What's been your most challenging moment?
Okay, well, here it is, people. My most challenging moment has definitely been look, I'm trying to think of the most tactful way to share. Because it's nothing new, but I think special interest,
Okay.
dealing with special interest. I will say I'm a very authentic, person and I'm a straight shooter. So my biggest challenge is when you show up and you pretend, you know, uh, but then it turns
Yeah.
out that special interest brain is here to um for everyone. And so there's no monopolizing here. There is no um we have to share. Okay. So there is no one above anyone else here. So I think, yeah, I think that's been my biggest.
And so if you take both of those
Hmm.
and you look at both of those together, whether it be you as an individual or you as a leader for Brain, can you at this time identify a North Star?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So here's what I had to like also realize and understand. You know, I don't think people work in silos because they want to.
Okay.
I think organizations have been burnt. I think leaders have had to navigate uh, the nuances of the way nonprofits are built. You know, we don't like to call them small businesses, so nobody has a business plan or a revenue model, and just they have had to operate in scarcity, and so I think the building of the trust has been really big.
Okay.
And so as a result, that tends to make people, you know what, I'm gonna do it myself. Forget it. I'm just gonna work by myself. And so those silos are, created as a result. And so the North Star is that brain is not that.
Okay.
Brain is disrupting the silo. Eric, you are so silly. You are silly.
No, but like you just, oh my God, I'm telling you, this morning, just in meditation and thought or whatever, and it just came to me about system disruption. And so as an engineer, I've kind of grown up in this idea, this concept, and you use some of the phrases too. We have standard operating procedures, and there's ways that things are supposed to be done, and systems are built for purposes. And then sometimes, we have systems that are not about like technology or processes, like engineering processes, but people get comfortable in them and not recognize that there needs to be modifications, like you said earlier, or changes made. And so sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we have to literally be system disruptors. Um, and I'm not necessarily for like tearing everything down all the time, but I also recognize that there are systems that are in place that weren't built with the best of intention. If we're being honest with ourselves, and so sometimes we have to figure out how to navigate them, modify them, refine them, uh, so they actually meet their stated purpose. And so sometimes I think we find ourselves in situations in different networks or not, whatnot, where you can identify folks that are just not comfortable with that idea at all. So it works. Let's not mess with it. But then again, the stated mission is not being served, or the people that we're intended to serve are not benefited.
I mean, and there's proof that the way it has been done does not work because it hasn't been sustained. But I will say, Brain is not creating this from scratch, out of nowhere with no models. There are national models, and there are national intermediaries as well as a state intermediary that does this work. So we're not just pulling this, out of a hat.
Well, but the thing is that's true. That's very, very true. But for people that are protective, and this is not just about Brain, for people, like for people that are protective of a system that work for their benefit or their special interests, you can have a model that's been successful in Timbuktu for 30 years. Now all of a sudden, you try to bring it to our community, and this is something I've experienced in this community for years. You try to bring it to our community, and the challenge is, well, we don't do that around here.
Yeah.
And so you oftentimes have people that are bucking change, even though it's proven to work, because they can see how it's going to disrupt what's going on for them.
Yeah, I see. I see. There is a saying that like the system is working exactly the way it was intended to work. So I hear that, but I will say this. Organizations need to pay attention to what's going on the federal level, because even when we have another president, there's so much damage that has been done. We're going to have to redo some things, right? Collaboration is not going away. Sustainability cannot go away. So while systems did work that way for 30 years, the way that funding is going to look in the future, we don't have a choice.
So let me make it plain, folks. Let me make it plain. So this was back in September, October. The money was like turned off.
No. Oh wait, no, that was actually.
I'm not good with dates.
Yeah. No, that was actually over the summer because I had programs reach out to me to say my program's going to have to close in July
And
if
so
we don't
that's the
funding.
point I wanted to get to is because there's alleged fraud. We got to verify that there's no fraud going on with an after-school program. That's after-school funding that's been out for years, and people got to check boxes and things like that. They're literally kids. Yes, they're adults. They got to get paid, but they're kids that are being put back on the street that are not creating more problems. And to your point, like as the adults in the room, we have to get in the room and make sure we have structures in place so that when this happens again in the future, our constituents aren't adversely impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. And we started a series called Future Ready because that, part of it is the scarcity mindset that people are conditioned to. So being future ready does mean that you have to disrupt those old systems. They don't work.
And so I'll just throw out a nugget for brand members, other nonprofits. So like what we're basically talking about at this point is that some of us were getting funding through intermediaries from the federal government to provide after-school programming. And we have organizations here in Baton Rouge that actually do what I'm about to share. But I think what we also have to be focused on from a financial standpoint is not completely dependent on government funding or philanthropic funding. We have to be able to come up with ways to generate revenue.
Right.
And so back to your point earlier, we don't like talk in the space of being a for-profit business, which we're not, but we have to operate as a business. And so I think for most of us, there are ways, whether it be actual contracts, whether it be, if you have an art program, allowing the kids to sell their art, split it between a scholarship for the kids and funding that goes back into the organization, but just really thinking through ways that you can create revenue for your organization so that we're not finding ourselves in this situation going forward.
Can I say one more thing about that? Yeah. So I think another way to create revenue for your organization is stopping tuition free. I know we don't have time. I know we don't have time.
Oh, we've got time. Go for it.
But I mean, it's another way that distracts you from stronger outcomes. Do a few things well. There are
Somebody said that. This guy who runs a STEM organization one time said,
I wonder if his name is Eric.
that everybody doesn't have to be a STEM program, just like everybody didn't have to be an arts program. And so, as an example, I mentioned how my son, I mentioned you earlier how my son is a musician. But I know the kids love music, and so I could bring him in. I could bring in what's the organization that does music for after school?
Kids Orchestra.
Kids Orchestra, an organization like that to marry the arts and STEM versus me trying to create an offshoot music program.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Brain is here for. Focus on what you do well and lean on others in the network to help you build. But there are enough students to serve. No one organization can do it all. For every one student in the program, there are 3 waiting. There are enough young people.
Trust me on it.
To serve. So when you are not a STEM program, or when you're a STEM program, but you are focused on housing insecurity. I mean, this is a real thing.
No, I know.
Okay,
In fact, I'm laughing because it's just, I think one thing is like, I'm passionate about STEM.
Yeah.
And I think every kid should have exposure to STEM, but there's a capacity concern there. But there's also the interest on the kids' part. Like, I'm not going to like force you to be an app developer. And so, like we have broad interests amongst adults, just like we have broad interests among kids. So
Right.
that's why I'm laughing, and I don't think we should try to be everything to
No,
everybody.
and you can't, like, if you are not an organization that focuses on housing insecurity, pass that on. But again, when you've worked in silos for so long, and it's also about who you know, then when that person moves on, you no longer have a contact
Yeah.
in that, that organization. So yeah, again, fragmentation. We are working on a database that will make sure that data is not dead. Um, and that will also be a benefit to, the community. But I just wanted to add that, like, when we think revenue model, we are thinking about ways to increase dollars by doing more, but sometimes it's by doing less.
Yes.
Mission creep is one way.
Good one, good one. So, what I would like to do is two things real quick. Um, so the first thing is just kind of making a connection between the theme of the podcast. And so we talk about our children need roots and wings. And the roots are, the foundation that we are providing the young people that we work with. So they're grounded. They have a baseline. They know who they are, giving them strong roots. And then the wings is their ability to take the things that have been placed in them so they can just soar and do whatever it is like they feel like they have the ability and capacity to do. And so with that thought process, what do you see as the roots, the foundation for bringing, and then the wings that you hope to be able to give young people served by the organization getting right?
So the roots are definitely um, strengthening the efficacy of youth serving organizations. That is definitely the roots. When your roots are strong and healthy, and safe, and protected. Okay, now I'm really thinking about trees. Then yeah, what comes to fruition, you definitely will be able to soar. As a result, the outcomes are limitless. For the students, when you set up, it's kind of like putting your mask on first, right?
Yeah.
So the organizations have to be masked before they can go out and take care of the student. As a result, the students will be successful. The students will be more curious. They will be more confident. They will be more prepared for the workforce and just being healthy contributors to society.
All right. And with that, we're going to leave space. We always at the end want to share any announcements from BRSTEM and from our guests. And so I'll give you some space to talk about an upcoming event that you have planned.
Yeah, so we are having a conference on February 19th. It's going to be at the Red Cross building on Sherwood Commons. This is a full day conference with a specific theme this year. And we are basically talking about how to take young people from program to employment.
Okay.
Creating a youth employment pipeline is not just about gathering the student, but again, it's about preparing the student. Who better than to focus on this than youth serving organization? It's not a secret that businesses are like, well, they need to be at least 18, but we need to start employing them at 14, 15. So, hello, who's been practicing that? Who's been doing that? Who's been dealing with all the nuances of being a teen program? So to then train the programs on, okay, let's go from you know let's go from you being a program participant to an employee. How do we do that? How do we make sure it's safe? How do we make sure it's effective? How do we make sure that it is in alignment with your, goals for your future? So you're interested in being an engineer? Oh, you think so? Well, let's see if your STEM, is hiring, team.
Okay.
Um, and let's see how we can, get money in your pocket, but let's also see how you can explore
Okay.
what you're interested in. So we're going to have this co-keynote um, with the East Spanish Parish School Systems Workforce Development Department and the Bridge Agency. I think it's so important to always have someone from the community share their expertise. Really, again, all the education sectors work together. So in this co-keynote, they are going to share their best practices. Um, but then to really talk about what success looks like, we're going to have the employees, the
Okay.
team employees, talk about that.
All right.
And then from there, the audience will be able to ask questions. It's 9 to 4 on February 19th. It is free. Take advantage. This is the last conference that we're going to have that's going to be free. So take advantage. You do not have to be a BRAIN member to participate. If you serve youth, you should be at this conference.
Okay. So when is it again? When is it again?
February 19th from 9 until 4.
Right. If you could give a call to action to BRAIN members or prospective BRAIN members, what would it be?
Oh, so the call to action is to join the city of Baton Rouge and surrounding parishes in elevating and professionalizing this field by coming, being a participant by sharing your expertise, but also leaning on others. The call to action is to join. It is free to join BRAIN. Come and be an active participant.
Well, Miss Jasmin, I greatly appreciate having you. This was fun.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it, and I am convinced that BRAIN is at the right place, the right time, in the right city to do some amazing things in our community.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
That's it.
Yay!
That's
Gary,
great.
that was